rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair, please call the order.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clark,
He is excused.
Mr. Bryant,
Present.
Mrs. Normiento.
Present.
Mr. Carey here, Mr. Shingle.
Present.
Mr. Goodson.
Here.
Mr. Wagner.
Here.
Mr. Rankin.
Here.
Mrs. Caroli.
Here.
Mrs. Marcini.
Here.
And Mr. Monahan.
Here.
10 present and 1 excused, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. This is the time set aside for the public to speak. Those wishing to speak and have signed in, you will be called to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record at that time. Mr. Carey?
Absolutely. This evening we have 7 speakers, the first of which are Barbara and Russ Whipple. Wow, forgive me.
Hi, I'm Barb Weibel. It's my husband Russ Weibel, 3429 Clark Street in Drexel Hill. And I'm here because a couple months ago I was at one of the open meetings at Garriford School. And at that meeting I raised a question about the roads being paved in our area. And the answer that I got was that Clark Street is a paper street, that it's a one of 2 in our area that's a paper street. So we contacted the courthouse to find out indeed what is a paper street, and they told us that our house, and they gave us documentation that it is indeed a right-of-way and not a paper street, and that Upper Darby is responsible for it. So I don't know where they got the information that told us that.
Mr. Weibel, let me ask Mr. Judge if we could maybe refer this to the township engineer to corroborate that.
Most certainly, we'll do an investigation and get back to you.
We can give you a copy of what they gave us.
Sure, we'll make it, if you
Yeah,
wait
that'd be
till
very
the
helpful. Thank you.
Is that a copy you can have, or
Yes.
we'll make a copy for you?
No, you can have that.
It has, it's color coded on what the streets are, and ours is indeed the same color as every street in the township. So, my
But
question,
it doesn't tell you there, and this is what we need to investigate, if that street was ever dedicated to the township. And that's why we consider it paper streets. Streets that have not been dedicated to us by the developer at any time. I'm not going to debate it right now, I'm just telling you that's why it's been considered, so we will most certainly will investigate that and get back to you.
all right, but then since you brought that up, I'd like to put it on record that I've lived in this house for over 20 years, and since I've lived there, Upper Darby has taken care of the street. They have signs on the street, a playground, which is a tot lot, is on the same street.
Lights?
There's nothing. There's street lights on the street. And just for the record, the street should be repaved because right now it's cracking up and it does need repair.
Mrs. Weibel, we will
The
get back to you.
last time it was done, it was 30 years ago. Mrs. Murdoch did it.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
So we will respond to you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate your help.
You're quite welcome. Next speaker.
Mr. Lewis Bonnet. Next speaker is Louis Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Louis Phillips, and I reside at 3825 School Lane in Drexel Hill. As you know, the township is doing a lot of work on our streets. And on Friday, September the 10th, Pico and Danella is a subcontractor, and Mariani is subcontracting to Danella. They were cutting up the street on School Lane and Vermont Road, and they were using a concrete wet saw to put a groove, a trench in the street, and they have a water supply that puts a slurry on that wheel of the saw so it doesn't overheat. And when they cut through the street, you have the asphalt, and then the concrete substructure forms like a concrete slurry, so to speak. Well, that splattered up on my white vinyl fence the whole length of Vermont Road, approximately 45 feet. And when I got home, it was all dried concrete from top to bottom. So obviously I was very upset about that, and I filed a police report and took digital photos, and I emailed a letter to my councilman, Donald Bonnet, and I also sent one to Tom Judge with the letter, pictures explaining how upset I was over the situation. And thanks to Don and Tom, they contacted Pico, Danella, Mariani, and all the powers that be that were involved, and facilitated them to replace my fence in kind. And I just wanted to publicly thank them both for their efforts, because it brought about a good resolution to the problem. So thank you very much.
Lou, thank you. You know, those pictures were very important to help convince Pico that they needed to do something. And I want to also personally thank Tom Judge and the staff that he enlisted here at the township to get to work on this and on your behalf. And I'm pleased that the outcome was a successful outcome for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Mr. Chairman.
Next speaker, Stacy Hawley.
Stacy Hawley, 1017 Mason Avenue, Drexel Hill. My comments this evening pertain to the tax increase, which I know the budget will be approved, and economic development. The current economic climate requires the Township Council to make some very tough financial decisions. I feel there are certain measures that could be taken to hold the line on tax increases. Services such as trash pickup twice a week during the summer could be temporarily suspended, since we now have recycling once a week. And, you know, I'm just saying temporarily till we get through this tough time, because it's just another reason to raise our taxes. Additionally, the comprehensive plan of 2004, it was recommended to look at rezoning in parts of the township to build a tax base, whether it be an industrial park, office space, or the like, to help give some relief to the taxpayers. Our taxes go up every year, every year. There has been discussion about a parking facility on 69th Street, which would hopefully attract retail and office rental revenue. As long as this has been discussed, I've seen nothing come to fruition, but our taxes still go up. The Baltimore Pike corridor continues to be vacant. The township is planning on building a library and a resource center for $1.2 million, you know, where the property, where the former synagogue was, which the township purchased for, I believe, $2 million, in addition to the asbestos remediation, and has since sat vacant, generating no revenue. And I believe that a library, although I'm all for libraries, will not generate revenue to the community, and the community at large will not benefit by this. With all the other projects that could be undertaken, as I said, I don't see that the library would be benefiting the entire community. Perhaps the project could be put on hold, because according to the budget, $900,000 in grant money in an economic climate that we are currently experiencing doesn't seem feasible. The budget calls for a $400,000 increase in recreation fees and an increase in business service tax. In my opinion, this is only to diminish the quality of life in Upper Darby, not only to the residents getting hit with an increased millage tax, sewage and garbage, but seeing the increase in fees for community activities. And Upper Darby could be viewed by business owners as an unfriendly business environment. A comment was made at the final budget public hearing that the township would take a compassionate approach to homeowners who do not maintain the integrity of their properties. I submit to you, it is another way of saying, with all due respect, the township is not willing to enforce the code. As a result, we are seeing more and more neighborhoods falling into disrepair. As a result of council's inability to execute the vision of a more vibrant community, current residents will continue to have their homes reassessed, turn them over to the banks, have houses sitting on the market forever, and we're losing revenue. And then it will be called for another tax increase for those residents that continue to reside in Upper Darby. Additionally, as the county and township continue to accept HUD funding, parts of the township will experience increased Section 8 housing and rental properties, which will continue to diminish the quality of life here in Upper Darby. As a result, we will continue to see families leave Upper Darby in search of property tax relief and a much more environmentally friendly place to live. Thank you for your time.
May I just correct?
Yes, you may.
I just want to correct one issue. I'm not going to go through the whole litany of, but the one thing I do want to make a correction is the fact that Upper Darby Township is a HUD entity and we accept HUD funding has nothing to do with whether Section 8 housing is allowed in our township. Section 8 housing is allowed to go anywhere, any place in the United States, and it has nothing to do with any prior funding that you collect anywhere else. So I just want to make sure that we're on record as stating that. That was an incorrect statement there.
Thank you, Tom. Also, Section 8, we have absolutely no control on those certificates when they're issued, or it's not a function of Upper Darby Township.
We have no control over the issuing of the certificates.
It's
at the county level, correct?
Stacy, well, just a few follow-ups to Tom's point. The parking garage is under design as we speak. That facility eventually will be built. It'll be built adjacent to the 69th Street terminal. Back to the HUD funding, if we did not receive the HUD funding, and this speaks to the issue of property maintenance, the HUD funding supports our home improvement program, where we fund improvements to income qualified people who can't afford to keep their properties up. So we use those federal funds to the tune of over $1 million to support that program. In addition to which, our property maintenance group, which is an entire task force, is very active throughout the town. And all you need to do is show up in the court system in Upper Darby, the district court system in Upper Darby Township, and you will understand that the court system logs in every week numerous complaints that are litigated under in fact, the for violation of our property maintenance code. In regard to the trash, I can speak for my council district. I get numerous telephone calls demanding that we actually increase the number of pickups, particularly in the summertime. Of course, that is a real budget issue where we can't afford to go much beyond what we're doing. So effectively in the summertime, we have pickups 3 days a week. So I think we're doing our fair share, and then some, insofar as maintaining the quality of life issues in Upper Darby. But I thank you for your comments. Next speaker.